Hello and welcome. The start didn't look like it was going to happen then, but anyway, welcome to Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. It's Monday morning, so the Chaston Centre loves to present this part every Monday of our business. You know, we are very much involved in assisting people to move beyond any kind of loss and create their better everyday life. But we're also very involved with going into businesses and assisting them to build their team dynamics workplace. Bringing in a lot of the things that we teach in our Beyond Loss programs, but more importantly, assisting everyone to know who they are, to know where they're going, to actually create their live, love, by design plan for their life in all areas of their life, which will then assist them to be able to collaborate, to innovate, and more importantly, to create those most amazing products and customer service and returns for all of the stakeholders. So that's what we talk about on Thursday at this time, but today is Monday. So let's deep dive into how we can assist you to move beyond any kind of loss and to create your better everyday life. And we do that by demystifying loss. And let's face it, none of us have been, or very few of us have been, to a class where we have learned how to move beyond loss. We all struggle through it. We don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. And we normally, more often than not, we will end up in isolation, suffering in silence, affecting all areas of our life, our health, our wealth, our relationships, so that we just get stuck because we don't know what to do when loss comes to visit. And that's why I love to share this in the platform that you're watching it. And of course, let me get my trusty little mouse working, and it's not going to work today. What's going on? Let me see how I can get this working. No, it's not going to work. Oh, don't you love live shows when you just sort of think, oh, everything's working so perfectly. But today it just doesn't want to work. How annoying. Well, what am I going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I am going to just move over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I am going to actually figure out what I am going to do. Just give me 1 sec and I will, this PowerPoint, I'll stop sharing this because it just doesn't want to work. And I'll do it a different way because then it will work. It's amazing, isn't it, that you sort of set these things up and then you just don't know exactly what's going to do. No, I don't want that. I want this to be displayed in, yep, there. Okay. Let's see if it works now. So let's go to the full screen. Here I am wasting all of your time. Okay, let's see now if it's going to work with me sharing my screen. I'm just going to share it slightly differently. This may make it work even better. Okay, so we're back and it does or it doesn't look like it's going to work. It's interesting. What is going on today? I never normally have this issue. Rightio, what I'm going to do is I am going to bring this over here so that it does work because I've really got a whole lot of great stuff to actually share with you today. And I would really love to be able to do that in a great way in a individual window. Okay, from beginning, let's just put it here. Okay, let's see if that works now when I come back here. No, it's not sharing. Okay, so I've got to share. Right, we're having fun, and I do apologise for this because I have so many great things to actually share with you. So it is really sad that I'm not actually, here we are, it's working now. So let's share, let's cancel, let's share. Do you know what? I really have to apologise because it just doesn't want to. Okay, now we have it working. Right, so let's just go back one as we said, it's all about demystifying loss and how we can create our better everyday life. So from here, we can actually see that life is actually like a heartbeat. Have you ever noticed that? We have many ups and then we have many downs. But if it wasn't like that, a heartbeat monitor actually shows that when you're dead, it's one straight line. And that's what your life would feel like if you weren't able to really embrace exactly how much you are living and loving your life by the ups and downs. And there's many gifts in both the ups and the downs. And it is about you really deep diving in and finding what those gifts can be for you. And through that, you can actually see that it is a bit like a heartbeat moving on and off. And I'm not sure if you can hand that. But what I have found is that life actually takes you on that journey from love to loss and then back to love. But many of us get stuck in the loss because we don't know how to get out of it. And that's because that's what the Chaston Centre loves to assist you with. It really is. There are over 40 different loss events that can affect all of our lives. And when you start to really deep dive into them, as you can see here, let me just go full screen on this. So when you start to deep dive into this, you can really see just how much it, you would have already experienced in your life. Have a quick look at all of those. You can clearly see that no matter how old you are, you have had multiple major losses throughout your life. And it doesn't really help you to when you realize, I don't know how to move beyond loss. So how can I do this? And that's what we love to say. And that's what we're going to do today. So have you gone into blame? Because more often than not, what stops us from moving on with our life is the fact that we go into blame. We start to, no, that's not going to work. Where's the one I want? That's the one I want. So what happens is we go into blame and then we don't know how to get out of it. And I love to break down words. And when you look at blame, most people go, how can you break it down? Well, you can see by the colors. So the blah is the blah, 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 where you go into the blah, 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 blah of what happened in the relationship that you may have lost, or the things that have happened, and you're blaming everyone else except yourself. And you've really forgotten about yourself. And that's the issue with a lot of people trying to move on from any loss event that has happened in their life. They really do become a bit of a poor me and blaming everyone else in the world without taking responsibility and without accepting what has happened. And if you have anything to do with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief, acceptance is the 5th. And you go through all of these other 4 emotions in and out in no order. You can go through them multiple times. But acceptance is where we really, really want to get to. And that's where it's really important. But because we're in blame, we can also end up going into the avoidance loop. And this is what I love, is what I have called the avoidance loop, where you do actually go into, this is too hard, I can't get out of bed, what's the point of living, no one gets me, I'll never be successful in whatever, and nothing matters anymore. And of course, there's multiple other things that you can be saying which have put you into that avoidance loop, which isn't good. It's not helping you in any way. But let's face it, the whole world is a bit of an avoidance. We have created a world of avoidance. And I know that's not easy for us to digest. But what it is how do you do your avoidance? So have you ever sat back and thought, this is how I do avoidance? Food, alcohol, drugs, anger. Anger is one of the ones where most people will go to anger so quickly because that shuts everyone else down, because most people don't want to be around someone who's angry all the time. So people go to anger as an avoidance so they don't have to talk about what's been going on in their life and how they are feeling. Exercising too much, working too much, isolation, Netflix, social media, let's face it, reality to TV is such an avoidance tactic. Let's have a look what's going on in everyone else's life instead of having to deep dive into our own. Too much sex or too little sex. And of course, the old favorite, shopping, which we all call retail therapy. So, are you ready to stop suffering? And this is where I started, ended last week with the point of, are you ready to stop suffering? Are you ready to get out of your avoidance tactics and start to actually learn how to live and love your life and how to heal from all of those different loss events that have occurred in your life? And it's a really important question for all of us to ask ourselves, because do you really want to come to the end of your life and be asking and looking back of it going, oh my God, I have so many regrets. When this happened to me, I went into avoidance and I became angry and I stayed that way for the next 20 years. As opposed to, I accepted what has happened. I looked into me. I healed the feelings I was having, and I looked at my life and I looked at where I wanted to be. And then I started really figuring out the things that I wanted to bring with me, the things I wanted to stop doing, and the things I wanted to start doing, so that I really could, live and love my life and come to a stage where I am making a difference, not only in my own life, but in everyone's life. And it's really important for us to be able to get to that stage. And yes, Anna, thanks for piping in that there are so many loss events. And it is really important for us to understand that because we have so many loss events in our life, it doesn't mean we have to stop and not live and love our lives. So today I'm going to really deep dive into the first step on the Gift of Loss staircase. And it is a 5-step process. And now I just want to make it really, really clear. When I say the gift of loss, I am not saying the tragic loss event that has happened in your life. I'm talking about the gifts that you can find, because that loss in your life is a pivotal moment for you to really become the person who you came here to be. Now, I've lost a son, right? He passed away over 10 years ago. There is no gift in losing Dan. The gift came with who I became after he passed. I am a completely different person. At the time he passed, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. And to be quite honest, in hindsight, a distance between who I was then to who I am now, I held myself back. Most people would have looked at me at those days and go, wow, Karen, look how successful you are. You have the job, the house, the car, the overseas trips, the salary. You have this amazing life. But to be quite honest, I wasn't looking after myself mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. I had this inner beat inside of me going, you look successful, but you're dying inside. When are you going to really start to live and love your life? When are you going to stop working so much? When are you going to start really deep diving into your relationships? Because be honest, they're not that great. Sure, you have a lot of friends and family and all that, but are they superficial? Are you really having those deep and meaningful conversations where you can truly make a difference? And to be honest, no, I wasn't. I was going through a Groundhog Day days where I wasn't living and loving my life. I was really just existing. And that's why I call it a Groundhog Day days. And I'd like for you to just take a step back and actually look at your life. Are you thriving in all areas of your life? Are you have you deep dived in and received the gift and the lessons from everything that has happened to you in the past? Or have you just shoved them down with food, alcohol, drugs, working too much, just watching too much TV, or just, going out with your mates way too much, not really having the time to look at your life and say, how can I make a difference? how can I leave this place better than how I found it? And it doesn't have to be this big, great thing where you become, Mother Teresa or Gandhi or someone like that. Maybe the way you make your big difference is the way that you have your relationship with your children, how you bring them up with love and compassion and empathy, allowing them to be who they want to be. So often when people say, how do I make a difference in the world? We truly think we've got to do this great big thing. But no, it's just by you honoring who you are that you really can make that huge difference in your life. So let's have a look now at the first step of the gift of loss. And the first step is to stop. Now, this is probably counterintuitive to the way that we have been processing loss for centuries. We have these cliches: keep busy, give it time, everything will be all right. But we know that everything won't be all right. And that's the thing that really is important for us to understand, that it's in the stopping that we find all of these answers. So what do we find in the stopping? Well, if you look back at the last 2 years, let's face it, most of us had to stop. We weren't given a choice. But what did a lot of us find? Well, first of all, a lot of us found how quickly the earth healed itself when there weren't so many, businesses, putting out pollution. There weren't so many planes in the air, and it was really amazing. But if you did, the ideal thing was when you stopped and you started to look at your life and you started to realize that, you probably don't need all that stuff that you've been working so hard to achieve and to pay for. But what also happens is when you stop and quieten the chatter all around you, you start to go within and you start to hear maybe that beating I talked about before, that beat, that drum beating inside of you. When are you going to start living your life? When are you going to start loving your life? But you may also hear things like the way you talk to yourself, and you may realize that, you know what, I don't really talk to myself all that well. I berate myself really, really well. I have a great girlfriend who actually calls that way, that the negative way of speaking to yourself, as the little bitty shitty committee. And it's quite interesting when you understand that committee can work against you in so many ways, and you don't even realize it because you hold yourself back. I know I held myself back in my corporate career. I used to look at the CEO and go, wow, look at him out there, doing all of these amazing things. And of course, he was doing probably less than what I'm doing now. So I know that I held myself back. But more importantly, in the stopping, you get to ask yourself these most amazing questions. And I've come to the conclusion that your life will always come back to the questions that you're asking yourself, because for every question you ask yourself, there's an answer waiting to be revealed. And for every answer revealed, there's an action step waiting to be taken. And for every action step that you take, you move yourself one step closer to who you are becoming. So if you're not asking yourself all these great questions, you're directing yourself probably towards a life that is not your dream life. But when you start asking yourself these questions about, after loss has come into your life, things like, what does this mean for me now? What does it mean for me moving forward? And how can I ensure that the direction and the destination that I'm looking for moving forward is the one that I really want to live and love? So often when you look at those loss events, you begin to realize that loss is change. And that's why I say there's a gift in loss, because it's moving you from where you are. And let's face it, sometimes we stay where we are way too long. I know, for example, I worked at Dreamworld for 14 years. I probably should have left, probably about half that time I should have been there. But I stayed because I really, really loved working there. I loved the people. I loved everything about Dreamworld. And it's really sad where Dreamworld is at the moment, but that's okay. Fortunately, I wasn't there when that happened. But what I know is that sometimes, because we're having so much fun and really loving where we are, life will send us an event to get us to move on, to become that person we came here to be. We're all spiritual beings having an earthly experience. We're all here to enhance our soul in some way. And whether you believe it or not, it doesn't really matter, because when you start to look at your life and you start to, do this amazing exercise that when you stop, you can do, where you can look at your life from that heartbeat perspective that we saw in the beginning of this video, where you truly will start to see that through the ups or the downs, you always went forward. You always enhanced your life in some way. You may have brought more joy into your life. You may have brought more sadness into your life. But through that sadness and working through it, you truly did start to realize the things that you wanted to stop doing, the things that you wanted to now start doing, and the things that you wanted to continue doing. And that's the beauty of the first step of stopping, because you truly will deep dive into your life when you do it properly. And the more that you deep dive into you, the more that you can start to understand and tap into your sixth sense, your gut. You'll tap into all of your senses, because when you're busy, you don't have time to tap into who you are. So that's our first step, right? And of course, I had the pleasure last year in the stopping to finalize my fifth book, which is, as you can see, Demystifying Loss. And I detail into this the hard way we do loss. I deep dive into a lot of the loss events, but I also deep dive into the more loving way to do loss, which is the Gift of Loss program. And of course, if you want to go to the Chaston Centre bookshelf, which by going to the chastoncenter.com, you'll be able to see not only the Demystifying Loss book and all the places that you can purchase it, but also you'll be able to see all of my other books. And I highly recommend, this is the book I wish I had when Dan passed. I truly would have loved to have had this book, because it truly is a guide. It has contemplation sections at the end of each chapter where you can really, really deep dive into it and figure it out. It's the whole process for you. And what I have found, and what's really important for everyone to realize, is that no matter who I've worked with, loss of identity always comes up. No matter what reason they came to me to assist them to move beyond that loss of identity always comes up. And what it is loss of identity. Excuse me. We come into this world perfect, right? I have the pleasure of having 3 young grandchildren around me at the moment. The oldest will be 3 in May. And I have to say, watching them grow and watching them go in and out of their emotions in probably in about 10 minutes, they go through the happy, the glad, the sad, and the bad. And it's really it's really interesting to watch how quickly they move through their emotions and how they leave them. They don't bring them with them like we do as adults. So that's why I highly recommend that you check out Demystifying Loss, because it really will make a difference in your life. And of course, as always, I look forward to seeing you at another Chaston Centre video, where on Mondays, we always look at how to create your better everyday life after any kind of loss. And on Thursdays, at exactly the same time, always 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we look at how you can create your team dynamic workplace. Well, thanks for being here. It was a bit of a slow start with my slides not working, and I could have done it without the slides. But sometimes I feel it's easier if people can see things and not just continually look at me. So once again, thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on another video real soon. But also remember to make each day meaningful, memorable, and magical. Bye for now.